Arranged Prince Harry and his manipulative wife were ditching the Commonwealth altogether in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic to set up home in Hollywood. I knew the British public would never forgive them. It's in chaos and crisis when the true character of public figures is revealed. Harry and Meghan's decision to flee to a sunny Californian mansion on a carbon-emitting private jet, of course, showed their character is based on a desire to put their own lifestyle first before their family or country. It's particularly sickening the way they made their decision at a time when the Duke's elderly father, Prince Charles, who is 71, was battling coronavirus personally, and Harry's 93-year-old peerless grandmother, the Queen, and 98-year-old ailing grandfather, Prince Philip, who has released a tasteful and heartwarming public statement today, were both being forced to self-isolate at Windsor Castle without access to family or most of their loyal staff members. I remember talking to a senior royal aide that day after I broke news of their decision to make the move during lockdown, who sighed with despair and sadness and then said to me, they have a perfectly lovely mansion in Windsor, just around the corner from the Queen. If they're not going to come back now, then you know they've turned their backs on Britain and their own family for good. Having reported on this couple for a number of years and breaking the news of Megxit in January, I'm well aware they are motivated by dollar signs, A-list friends, and international superstardom. But it has stunned and disgusted me to see Harry become a conspiracy theorist about media coverage of the biggest health crisis of our lifetime. Instead of keeping this dignified silence that they promised at the start of this outbreak, Harry and Meghan have been bristling as they've seen the British public rally around the remaining members of the royal family at a time of serious insecurity and fear. Prince Charles won respect for fighting off COVID-19 with great bravery and then quickly returning to work from a virtual office in Scotland, even remotely opening the Nightingale Hospital. Prince William and Kate have lifted national spirits with their humility and openness, which has been centred on the plight of children and NHS heroes. Even hapless Fergie has regained a little bit of affection with her attempts to keep the nation entertained. And the Queen, of course, has been a pillar of national strength and solidarity, delivering two historic and unprecedented addresses that coincided with the time the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, was in intensive care fighting for his life. Never has Harry and Meghan's desire to emulate their pal Oprah Winfrey by launching a range of commercial products around their image rights felt more inappropriate or, frankly, irrelevant to Brits. No one cared about their announcement of their new Archewell Foundation. It just wasn't the time. And no one cares about Meghan's desperate attempts to promote her Disney movie about elephants. Yeah, she really went on American breakfast television this morning to plug this film. Unbelievable. The media has instead been focused on what's really important, reporting on the brutal force that is coronavirus, the struggles facing the NHS, government flaws regarding testing and PPE, and the despicable Chinese cover-up. That coverage has been incredibly important to inform and educate the British public. In fact, the Culture Secretary, Oliver Dowden, has even described newspapers as the fourth emergency service of this crisis. But Harry, whose obsession with hating the press comes before anything else, this weekend chose to suggest the media is, for some unknown reason, lying about the extent of this crisis. He told the podcast Declassified, I think what has happened, especially in the UK, is the very best of the human spirit, and it's proving that things are better than we are led to believe through certain corners of the media. That was what Prince Harry said. We'll play it to you shortly. What the hell is he talking about? Harry is 5,437 miles away in a luxury Hollywood mansion. As a former senior member of the royal family, he has no access to any government information to back up his ridiculous claims. And in fact, he has no qualifications or expertise whatsoever to commentate on the severity of a pandemic. But I'm stunned by his lack of emotional intelligence to suggest an out-of-control illness with a vaccine that has killed over 16,000 of his countrymen is anything other than a catastrophe and a tragedy, which is rightly how the media is covering this unprecedented story. In his new home country, I'll remind Prince Harry that over 40,000 people have died, while internationally, the death toll is already over 160,000. In fact, it's impossible to disagree with Professor Carol Sikora, he's going to be on the show later, who said of Harry yesterday, what are his qualifications for making these comments, other than deserting his country in its hour of need? If Harry had any sense, he would stop picking pathetic fights with the British media simply to try and prove a petty point that the whole world has moved on from to deal with something that really matters, life and death. But for the record, the reason Harry and Meghan have decided to institute some sort of ban on the British tabloids is because they are the very newspapers reporting on the facts about their behind-the-scenes fallout with the royal family. So I will speak personally. In my case, that has meant revealing that William and Kate had rowed with them over Meghan's treatment of palace staff, that the Queen had banned Meghan from wearing jewellery from the royal collection, that Meghan was working with a Hollywood business manager to set up a multi-million-pound deal while still a publicly funded duchess, and also that their exit from the UK and the royal family was steeped in bitterness, deeply upsetting the Queen. Harry and Meghan may not have liked those stories, but they were all true, and they were all in the public interest. So that is our question of the day. Should Harry and Meghan put announcements about their new Hollywood way of life on hold during the coronavirus crisis? Right now, on our poll at Talk Radio on Twitter, 81% of you saying the Duke and Duchess should back off. They should back off and wait, at least wait until we are through the worst of this thing.